be so respectful of everyone's time. Hi, again, my name is Samantha Nino. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Ixcela. And I'm so excited to have you here today. Before we get started, just a few reminders on the housekeeping things. One, if you have any questions, please type your questions in the Q&A window. The webinar is about 20 minutes, and we'll be sure to answer every question at the end of this session. We'll hang out as long as it takes to make sure those questions are answered. And then two, we have a special speaker today, Dr. Erika Ebbel. She is our CEO and co-founder of Ixcela. She received her PhD in biochemistry in 2012 from Boston University School of Medicine and holds a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry from MIT. She's been recognized for her innovation and leadership over the years, receiving several awards, including the Distinguished Alumni Award from Boston University School of Medicine, Division of Graduate Medical Sciences. She even has a TED Talk. If you haven't seen it, it has 1.5 million views, and it's all about gut health. So if you love this webinar, be sure to check out her TED Talk. Erika will be sharing details today about what the Ixcela program is and how it can help runners and triathletes overcome common obstacles. Thank you again, and please welcome Dr. Erika Ebbel.
Thanks, Sam. Good evening, everyone. We're on the East Coast, depends on where you are, but good evening, good day to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited today to talk with you about some incredibly important topics here. Ixcela works with a wide variety of different individuals, athletes, and today we're going to be focusing on runner's gut and how Ixcela can potentially help. So a little bit of an outline about today's talk. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about what is Ixcela. Second, we're going to talk about how our programs actually work. Third, we're going to look at how this program differs from other types of testing. It's a question we often frequently get from audience members. We will then talk about who has used our product and ultimately how did they benefit? What were the results? What did they see in doing the program? And then we're going to circle back to the original topic, which is what could be causing your runner's gut or any of the other, very important issues that Sam mentioned on the front end of the talk. So we're going to jump right in to this. Please stay until the end in order to fill out a little form. You'll see a link to that at the end to get your free 2-week sample of our Performance Probiotic. We'll ship it to your home for free. So please stay until the end. And of course, we'll take questions as well. So let's start with, who is Ixcela? Who are we and what do we do? So we are a human performance company that ultimately uses gut microbiome testing data coupled with a review from a sports certified registered dietitian, so someone with background in this, to help personalize your nutrition and lifestyle recommendations based on the results of the test. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail on that later on in the presentation. Sam was kind enough to introduce me at the beginning of the talk. We've been at this for quite a while. The science that underpins what we do here is based on decades of research. The gentleman on the right-hand side of the screen just recently turned 80. He's our co-founder and chief scientist. He is the inventor of the proprietary technology that we use to analyze our blood samples. He is also considered to be one of the pioneers, the fathers of metabolomics. Metabolomics being the study of small molecules, these compounds that you find in, whether it's blood or other types of samples, but he is considered to be one of the pioneers of this field. He has many, many patents and papers that he's been primary author and inventor on. Some just sort of fun facts about him. So in the 1970s, in cooperation with the CDC, he's responsible for inventing the pinprick lead test used to screen children for lead. So if you have a small child and they've gone to kindergarten, typically this is something that's done right before that. They take a little blood sample and they run it for lead levels. That's really based on Wayne's test and something that he invented a long time ago with the CDC. We have done just, this is a partial list of the research partnerships that we have, but we've worked with Harvard, UCLA, NASA, Mayo, Duke, really many research institutions. NASA is an interesting story. We've looked at DNA damage markers in astronauts on the International Space Station. So again, Wayne has been around for a long time doing this type of work. In terms of the types of folks who use our testing, again, this is a partial list, but these are some of our athletes who are, in our programs. Chelsea on the left-hand side, congratulations to Chelsea, recently winning the Ironman World Championships in Kona. Very excited for her for that. So again, just a partial list, but just to give you a sense of the types of folks we work with. So how do our programs ultimately work? Well, it's pretty straightforward. You poke your finger with a lancet, just a small prick. You bleed about 4 drops of blood on a little collection device that looks a bit like a Q-tip. You close it up, you ship it to us in a prepaid FedEx envelope. It comes into our CLIA certified lab. We analyze that sample. Takes anywhere between 2 and 10 days in order for those results to post. And then we provide a report which describes the levels of 11 different critical markers that give us a sense for the health of your gut. And we're going to, again, talk a little bit more about that later. You then also have the opportunity to speak with a dietitian. So we don't expect you to figure it all out by yourself. We have you do a 45-minute session with a dietitian to review your results, to help you prioritize your recommendations based on the goals that you've set and based on your willingness to do them. And so again, everyone is very different on that spectrum, and the dietitian helps you to sort that out. You can then decide to implement those 90-day programs that are included on your own, or to sign up for an Ixcela program where we continue to work with you in a one-on-one fashion. So again, we get asked this question a lot. I've been through so many tests. Why should I do this with you? And so again, we're going to talk about sort of 3 broad categories here, and happy to answer more questions later. So you have other types of testing like Inside Tracker, which are essentially sort of standard blood panels. They're very similar to the types of testing that you would get if you went to see your physician ordering these types of tests. The challenge is many of the things that we measure are not actually tested by these other companies. You can't get them through your physician, and they ultimately don't really give any sense into the health and functionality of the gut microbiome. So if you're suffering from runner's gut, those tests aren't necessarily going to give you the information you need about food sensitivities, gut issues, et cetera. So again, we're unique in our markers. And for a long time, we were working very specifically with athletes, that are, for example, team athletes, America's Cup Team Oracle USA, athletes in the NFL, NHL, et cetera. We're really excited to now bring that technology to everyone. We are not a stool sample test. People ask us this all the time, but you're testing the gut microbiome. There are a lot of issues with stool sample testing, none the least of which is it's not particularly fun to collect that sample. But on the scientific side, there are reproducibility issues depending on where you scoop that sample from. And the connection between creating personalized nutritional plans based on the results of those stool sample tests, really science has not actually connected that. So sort of the science is loose at best. And ultimately, it doesn't really provide any insight into how your gut is functioning. It will tell you what is in your stool, but not necessarily what is in your gut. The two are not the same and they're different. So I think the majority of us want to know, well, what's going on inside of me? Is the bacteria, or are the bacteria in there able to do their jobs to keep me healthy, rather than just, what is in this particular scoop of my stool sample. So again, blood is the current gold standard for how these types of markers are tested. And so, we believe this is the way to go. Lastly, you have DNA testing. This comes in different forms, saliva testing, et cetera. DNA testing might tell you what you're predisposed to. So, you can't change your DNA, but it might say, hey, you're at risk for potentially developing high cholesterol. But at the end of the day, you're still going to want to know, well, do I have it or not? And it's something that might happen, in a year, in 10 years, and it might be something that never happens to you. So DNA is about risk, not whether or not it's materialized. You have to go get a blood test in order to assess that. So again, with our test, being a blood test, we're able to measure the body's current state, what is going on at this moment, so that we can provide the most reasonable and rational interventions to help. So again, we're different, we're accurate, we're useful because you can actually do something about these markers. They're actionable. It's easy. You can do it at home. You don't need to go and have someone, draw your blood. There's no phlebotomy involved. There's no stool sample hammocks. There's no collection involved. It's quick, while many of the other tests that were mentioned may take 4, 6, 8 weeks to process your results. We're pretty quick, 2 to 10 days. And again, it includes a professional to help you understand the results and make a plan. And everything is really custom tailored to the individual based on, again, the pain point, the willingness to change, and the goal. The program works, always really helpful. And we're going to show you some case studies later on in the presentation to explain that. And there are more as well that we're happy to share if you're interested. And again, there are always ways to improve. I think the dietitians are able to take your scores, the data that come from your testing, and really design something that's going to work for you. And I think that's also, really important. I've never seen anyone score a perfect 100 on this test, so there's always room for improvement. And again, having someone there to help you to demystify what that is really, really important. All right, so let's jump into some examples of how this has helped some of the folks that we've worked with. And these are, some are professional athletes, some are, kind of quasi-professional, and some are just excited to be out there and want to just improve for their own self. So Hayden is one of our examples here. He's a pediatric medical resident in his 30s. He loves racing Ironman. For years, he had been experiencing runner's gut, all kinds of things, bloating, cramping, diarrhea during his training. And this was happening for such a long time that he it became kind of part of his normal routine. And that's something we've seen with many of the folks we work with. They think it's normal to have this happen when in reality, it's really not. So Hayden thought the problem was eating spicy foods, going out to eat, eating certain types of sweets, alcohol. He went to a GI doctor, got the full workup, was told there was nothing clinically wrong, despite the fact that clearly he was not feeling right. Prior to his testing, he tried different things. So he went on a healthy plant-based diet, which obviously we love plants, we love plant-based diets, and he would take common race fueling tips from his friends or from social media. He took our sample, poked his finger, bled, submitted it. We used our proprietary technology to analyze his sample, provided the various metabolite levels to Hayden. And then in the registered dietitian session, they were able to take the testing data with the markers that were out of range, combine that with Hayden's history of understanding what were the issues, how often were they, how frequent, were they triggered by certain instances, when did this all happen, and discussed what he was willing to change and what he was willing to do to adapt his lifestyle. From that, we were able to design a program for him. And again, we've sort of made this as simple as possible, but at the highest level, we discovered that he was chronically inflamed. He had inflammation, he was stressed, he was overtraining, not taking any rest days, eating the wrong types of foods at the wrong time. And that was further exacerbating the problem. So after doing the test and meeting with the team, we changed his sleep habits. We changed his stress habits. We changed his food plan to a FODMAP, low FODMAP plan. We changed his fueling gels and electrolytes and changed some of the supplements that he had been taking. So what was the outcome? Well, a significant decrease in the number of days he suffered from stomach issues. So prior to us, and these are 90-day studies again, so individual took the test, did our program for 90 days, took the test again, and we tracked them daily, asking very specific questions to assess, was this working or not, right? And comparing that to what was happening prior to the program. So prior, he was having daily GI issues, completely horrible, uncomfortable. After, we were able to really narrow that down to 1 to 2 days a week max. As a result, interestingly enough, Hayden got faster. And so, I think for a variety of reasons, right? So one, he was able to increase his fueling such that, before he wasn't able to take in enough calories. Now he was able to actually do that. And now he was able to actually recover much, much quicker than he was in the past. So his recovery time before was a whole week. We were able to shrink that down to 2 days. So while other products out there may seem generic, and this is something we hear a lot too, well, how personalized is this really going to be? Ours is very much personalized, and we'd just like to show a couple of examples of what that means. So a person, and you're going to see a lot of detail here, this is done intentionally. So we'll show you that. So you've got 2 people here, Hayden and another one of our athletes, Ixcela, came to us for the same reason, to reduce stomach issues. And at that point, the question was, well, how do we help both of them? So again, they took the test. For Hayden, we switched his race fueling, we changed his food plan to a low FODMAP plan, we changed his supplements, added a few unique things in, we changed his drinks, what electrolytes he was taking in, both during and after training. And on the recovery side, we helped him to just make sure he was doing the right types of recovery exercises, schedule rest days, getting proper sleep, and then ultimately incorporating great wind down activities to improve the mindfulness so that he could become less stressed. Now, Ixcela, again, same issues, but had to actually add food into her diet. We added protein shakes. We added different drink changes. So things like tart cherry juice, things like reducing her coffee and caffeine intake, changing when she was consuming her waters, including recovery changes again. So making sure that she stretched and walked during the intense times of her workouts because she was inflamed and getting, injured. We changed her meditation practices and made sure that she was getting calmed down before bed, and made sure that she got enough sleep. Again, in her case, we were able to decrease her GI issues by 87%. So let's come back to Ixcela. What do we do? And what are 3 things that we do that others don't do? So 1, we are very much geared towards helping athletes. So we try to solve the issues that are important to athletes. 2, we provide guidance on exactly what to do. You're not left to try to figure it all out by yourself. And ultimately, we do have proof that it works. And we're going to come back to that a little bit. So 1, we're going to go into more detail. We solve things that matter to athletes, things like runner's gut, performance plateaus, frequent injuries or illness, bonking, inflammation, slow recovery. These are things that matter. And we know from talking with our athletes, interviewing them and understanding these pain points and knowing this is what holds them back and what keeps them up at night. There could be 4 primary things that are at play. So 1, you could have a damaged or imbalanced gut. So, and what does this mean? So this means that maybe the intestinal lining is damaged. It's preventing you from actually absorbing the nutrients, despite the fact that you have a healthy diet, and that's okay. But if you can't absorb those nutrients, it really doesn't matter. Or if you have the wrong population of bacteria in the gut, you're not able to break down the nutrients at all. So they're just sort of passing through. So we can identify that. It could be a nutrient problem. Maybe you're not actually taking in the right types of foods. You're not fueling properly. And that's going to reduce the training gains that you're going to see. Maybe it's a stress problem. Maybe your training plan is actually working against you. You're overtraining. When you think you're doing the right thing, it's actually kind of a double-edged sword. Maybe you're consuming the wrong types of liquids. Too much caffeine actually is being a stimulant, but being inflammatory is creating inflammation in the body. And if you're not actually eating enough and taking in enough calories, this also can put extra stress on the body. And it could be a sleep problem. Sleep is fascinating. Many of our athletes don't initially identify sleep as one of the troubles they have. But when you ask the question, how's your sleep? They say, ooh, it's actually not very good. And so if you can go and solve that, then it ends up trickling down and affecting all these other areas. So what's interesting is many of the building blocks that are needed to support the production of melatonin physiologically are molecules that we measure and we can assess them. And some of them and many of them come from diet. So if you don't have the right building blocks, you're ultimately not going to be getting a high quality sleep. We provide guidance on what to do. I think this is also really important. Most companies will say, here, take this test, and you'll take it and you'll get the results back. And then you're going to say, what does this mean and why should I care? At the end of the day, I am a huge supporter of robotics. I think AI is wonderful, but it's not complete because the individual has to be asked questions in order for a proper personalized program to be designed. You have to know, what is this person's history? What do they do? What's their lifestyle? What are their goals? What are their, complications? And the dietitians ask all these questions. They will create the personalized plan for you so that you actually have what you need, the tools to do it yourself. And then ultimately you can decide to do it yourself or do it with Ixcela if you're interested in participating in one of our 90-day programs. And third, we have proof that it works. We invested quite a lot of time and energy into sort of dozens of case studies where we were working with a variety of different athletes for 3 months at a time, asking very specific questions, looking for outcomes, and getting that data. So it took a while. It was not easy, and we're actually continuing to do that in many cases with many of our participants. So again, they took a baseline test. They went through the program, our 90-day complete program with our dietitians. They took their supplements, everything for 90 days, retested, and we were able to compare the start with the finish. So again, just a little bit more data. Marathoner Michaela, after everything that we went through with her, she got faster too. So again, was really excited. She ran her fastest race of her life, and her average stress level decreased again significantly after the program. We worked with 4-time Ironman champion, Sarah Piampiano. Her big challenge was inflammation. She would retain fluid after her races, 20 pounds of fluid. And Sarah's is a small woman. So 20 pounds was a significant amount of water weight and inflammation that was accumulating. She would sweat out for nights after racing. Her sheets she would tell us her sheets would be completely soaked through. We were able to shrink that number from 20 pounds after racing to 8, which, for her was a hugely relevant decrease. It would take her a month to recover from a race. And we were able to decrease that to about half that time, which was very important because at this time she was racing very consistently, sort of month after month. And if it was going to take that long to recover, she just wasn't able to, cope with the load. We worked with Olympic hopeful, Paul, and in his case, one of his big challenges was sick days. He was constantly sick, and this was horrible for him because it was interfering with his ability to train. We were able to decrease that to nothing. Now, we can't promise that you're never going to get sick or injured, but the reality is, if you do take care of yourself and you eat well and sleep well, and your likelihood of having a stronger immune system obviously increases. So we were able to see that in Paul's data. Also, he missed a lot of days due to injury, and we were able to, dramatically decrease that as well. So what are the different program options that we offer? There's sort of 3 choices. Again, there's the Kickstart program that includes the test. You take the test, you speak with the registered dietitian, you fill out your health profile. They will create a 90-day personalized program for you. You then have to go and follow it yourself in a DIY fashion. One of our really popular programs is the complete package. This is 2 test kits. So one on the front end of 90 days, the back end of 90 days. You have all the supplements you need for 90 days, and you have 3 private virtual sessions, and then weekly communication via text through a HIPAA compliant app with the registered dietitian. Again, they're able to tweak the program for you as you go along. So if something is working or not working, they adjust to make sure that it's perfect for you. And then the personalized accountability program, essentially you have your dietitian on call for you at any time to work with you. It's sort of like having your own personal trainer for 90 days, but your own personal dietitian. We do have a deal with PayPal Credit. So you do sign up through PayPal, but it allows for 6-month financing of the various programs if that is useful. And for all of those who came to this webinar, there's a coupon that we're offering. So it's 10% off of all the different programs. So it's about $50 off of Kickstart, $100 off of Complete, and $200 off of the personal accountability. Again, so we reach the end of the presentation. Please, here's a code, scan the code. We will send you a free 2-week sample of our performance probiotic. Yeah, so please fill out the form.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Erika. We would love to open up the webinar to answer your questions. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. I'll leave this QR code up so that you can scan it and get that free probiotic. But in the meantime, do we have any questions? Would you like us to answer anything about the information that you heard today from our speaker, Dr. Erika Ebbel? We'd love to be able to help out.
While folks are deciding what to ask or not ask, one thing we would also recommend, if you are interested and want to learn more, please schedule. We have free 15-minute consults with our dietitians. They are happy to answer any questions about the program. They, of course, are the ones who've worked with our athletes and our wellness clients. They have probably even more knowledge about all the stats than I do. So if you're interested in a program, please reach out. And Sam, what's the best way to do that? Just go to the website?
That's a really good question. Let me post that in the chat window for everybody.
Perfect.
I can give you that link so that you can schedule that time if you'd like to ask a dietitian in that one-on-one session.
And also, if you decide to do that, just say you're a USAT member, and they can also get you a sample of the performance probiotic.
Perfect. Gonna get you that link. Actually, Erika, could you explain a little bit more about the difference between the blood test and the stool test that we saw? We got to cover that a little bit, but wanting to understand a little bit more of, how could we test the health of the gut microbiome if we're using blood instead of stool?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I know it's counterintuitive, but let's think about what happens when you eat food. So you eat a taco. I like tacos, so it's always my example. So you eat a taco and you chew it. It goes into your stomach where it's churned and broken down. It goes into your small intestine where you essentially absorb, right, all the nutrients. And a lot of the gut microbiomes, the bacteria live in the intestinal lining. And the intestinal lining kind of looks like all these finger-like projections of cells that stick into the center of the intestine to create more surface area to absorb those nutrients. In the gut, sort of the bacteria live in the mucosal lining. So this kind of sticky coating that covers those cells. So they're hanging out there. So the food comes through, the bacteria say, oh, cool, yum, I'm going to eat the remnants of the meat or the tomato, or I'm going to take that in, I'm going to break it down, and then have those nutrients pass through the cells and go into the systemic circulation. So each of these cells has a little blood vessel. And so the nutrients pass through and are absorbed through the cells into these blood vessels where they're shuttled really all over to the body. So the gut microbiome facilitates the breakdown of these nutrients, and then ultimately their absorption, right, through the cell lining, where they go into the systemic circulation, into the blood, and then they're used to build your immune system, to build your hair, your nails, to repair things, to give you energy, etc. So in order to measure how well is the gut microbiome working, or how well, do I have enough of the good or bad bacteria, you got to measure it through the blood, because you're going to say, well, my nutrient levels of this, that, and the other thing aren't good enough, right? And then it's, well, what's the cause? Is it because I'm not consuming enough food, or is it because there's damage to the gut? And again, this test can assess that, because some of the markers that we measure also are damage markers of the intestinal lining. So again, you're looking at food markers based on absorption of the nutrients. You're looking at markers of damage to the intestinal lining. And so the dietitians can put all these pieces together, right, and say, all right, there's damage here, inflammation there, not the right composition of good versus bad bacteria in the microbiome, I need to start by healing the gut first. We'll come back to nutrition second, but we should start here, because no matter how much great food I put into this person, they're not going to absorb any of it. So this is, so that's how you can measure that. Now the stool, right? So we keep going down the line. So all the food that is not basically digestible by the bacteria, things like, if you've had celery, bits of celery, or just undigestible fibers that don't quite, can't be fully digested, they pass through to the large intestine. Dead cells, dead bacteria, that's what the odor comes from. They go in there, water is pulled out, and that's where you get your stool. Now, so think about this again. So I take a sample of that and I say, well, I'm going to tell you what foods you should be eating based on this. Doesn't actually make sense, and it doesn't actually work. So again, it's counterintuitive, because you think health of microbiome equals what comes out in stool. But in reality, health of microbiome is the stuff that's in there absorbing, digesting the nutrients that I need in order to keep me healthy. And the only way to measure them is through the blood.
That's excellent. Thank you. We actually have another question that came through. The question is, what about Canadian? And I'm assuming that means, do we sell to our friends north of us in Canada?
The answer is yes. There's sort of a flat shipping cost for international shipping, and there are a couple of supplements that we can't ship. I think the answer is melatonin and 5-HTP. Again, there's a list with all the different countries and their respective rules. But yes, you can absolutely purchase the test, go through the program, and get most of the supplements, no matter where you are in the world.
Excellent. Thank you. And I know we talked about the different levels of the programs. There was the Kickstart, there was the Complete, and then there was basically a dedicated dietitian. The question is, can you start with Kickstart and then change your mind, being able to do a different program? Is that
Totally.
okay?
Absolutely. Many people want to know if there's, a challenge or a problem first, and then there's always the opportunity to upgrade.
Okay, excellent. Okay, do we have any other questions for our speaker today? We do have another question.
Yay, I love questions.
Yes, I am 72, and I have sometimes a lot of problems running, gut problems and big ones, marathon, world age group, and 70.3. So I'm not sure what the question might be. Would this, go ahead, Erika. Was there something that you wanted to respond with?
Yeah, I mean, if the question, maybe I should wait for the actual question, but if the question is, could this product be helpful? The answer is absolutely. When we did our reference range studies, so again, we take our science very, very seriously here at Ixcela, and in order to understand these markers and what their levels should be, in addition to sort of cross-comparing with obviously pre-existing research and lab results from companies like, like Quest or whatever, right? So we're trying to validate that our ranges are correct. The reference range study included individuals aged 18 through, I think it was like 85. And so we have done research, showing that the program is effective and that the metabolite levels are relevant. And so we have that. So I think, yes, we definitely have worked with folks of all ages and have the data to show that we can.
Excellent. And so sorry for this person that is experiencing a lot of problems with GI distress. On average, for athletes who go through our programs, we see at least a 73% decrease in the number of GI issues that they're experiencing. So yes, we believe that we can help you. Schedule that 15-minute call with one of our dietitians, and you can talk specifically with our dietitian team to see what their feedback is and how specifically they think that we could help and serve you. Excellent questions. Any other questions?
I see a hand raised, Sam, under participants, but I'm not entirely sure what to do.
Yes, let me check that out. Let's see. I'm actually, for the person that raised their hand, is there anything else that you would like to ask? Happy to, again, support you. And for everyone on the call tonight, I know some folks came in a little bit late. We will be sending the full recording for tonight's session in your email. Look for this in your inbox tomorrow. We'll include the recording, the link to get the sample probiotic, and again, that link to schedule a results review, or I'm sorry, schedule a 15-minute session with one of our dietitians to help. It looks like, did we get another hand raise? Let's see.
We did. We just did. I was gonna.
Okay. You know, I think I can hit the button allow to talk.
Okay.
Let's see if that helps. Still figuring out some of the Zoom webinar controls here. Thanks for your patience, everyone. If there is another question, the Q&A box is also really great. We're able to see some of those questions. We're able to see all the questions come through here. Thank you. Hang out here. It looks like someone's trying to ask a question, but I don't think we're making it yet.
It's okay. We are, every time we think we've learned Zoom, they've added some new feature and.
Yes. You know what? I will also put in my personal email in the chat window. If you have a question that's not coming through, feel free to email me here, and I'm happy to help and make sure that you're directed to someone who can answer your question. Okay. Erika, is there anything that you'd like to add?
Nope. We are more than happy to answer questions. This is a difficult market to navigate. There are many tests out there that purport to be able to do things. Obviously, I mean, I will say we are different, but we are. It's not just a test where you get a report. You get a full program, you get a person. And like I said, again, we've been doing this for quite a while. And what we've learned is that so much of it is understanding each individual that we work with and what their needs are. It is the difference between getting people to do the program and benefit from it, and to open to open the report and close it and never look at it again. So again, we're here to help answer questions in any way. Feel free to reach out to Sam or to our dietitians. We love working with people. It's what truly makes us happy. So let us know if there's anything we can do.
We actually did get one more question, Erika.
All right, sure.
Ready? This person is wondering if it's normal that athletes always have GI problems more than a regular person.
Well, so, I think what's really interesting is that, GI problems in general are very, very common. We were doing some research on this, and I think like 2 out of 3 individuals, at least this is sort of North America, statistics, 2 out of 3 people experience GI problems, obviously to varying degrees, but people are debilitated by it. And again, many of our athletes have talked about this. Many of them don't even necessarily identify that they just are so used to it that they think it's normal. It's not normal. And it's something that actually can be controlled. And as a result of solving that, you A, are more comfortable, but B, you'll get faster. So again, it's, you reach a point where if you don't start to correct these other factors, there's just nowhere to go with your training. So, I think it is common. It's common. And I think it's unfortunate, but there are many, many factors, right, that contribute, from diet to stress to poor lifestyle habits to, frankly, just the exercise alone puts a fair amount of stress on the body. And unless the body is armed or, armored, I guess, or armed to cope with that, you could be really uncomfortable. So, again, we understand. I have chronic GI issues. It's one of the reasons why I started the company. And the more we talk to different groups of people, the more we realize just how pervasive this problem is. And, I think a lot of people have just gotten to the point where they're like, I'm just going to deal with it despite being wildly uncomfortable. And you don't have to be.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for connecting with us and staying with us longer. Again, we'll send the recording of this event. Look for your inbox in the morning. Thank you again for being here. We look forward to supporting you on your performance journey and your wellness journey. So thank you again for being here. Have a good night.
Good night.